Hello everyone and welcome back to UK Homicide. If you're new to our channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like, and share to stay updated on cases that matter. Today's case is very confronting, but essential to talk about. In 2007, the bodies of two sisters were found in their home, in a scene that would be described as absolutely frenzied. We will look at the chain of events, motives, trial, justifications, and any warning signs that, with the power of hindsight, which we, unfortunately, do not have, could have resulted in these girls going on to have the happy and fulfilling lives they should have had. On June 13, 2007, the bodies of 16-year-old Davina and 13-year-old Jasmine Baker were found in their beds with multiple stab wounds, in a scene that would be described by the lead detective Jim McCrory as the most upsetting and sickening crime he had seen in his 25 years in the police service. To maintain their privacy, I will refer to those outside the immediate family by their initials only. Born in India in 1968, Rekha Kumari moved with her family to the UK. In August 1998, she married David Baker in Leighton Buzzard, becoming Rekha Kumari Baker. She was a hotel waitress in Stetham, Cambridge, and her husband was a successful businessman specializing in IT. 5 years after marrying, they welcomed their first daughter Davina, followed 3 years later in 1994 by Jasmine. But the couple split up in 2003, when the girls were 9 and 12 years old, with divorce granted a year later. Post-divorce, David continued to have an excellent relationship with his daughters. And as they spent time with him, they naturally spent more and more time with David's new partner. I'll call her Kay to protect her identity. On the face of it, Rekha had also moved on and had a new wealthy partner. I'll call him Jay, who was very supportive and even contributed financially to some of Rekha's expenses. Davina, like many 16-year-olds, clashed with her mum, and one particularly furious altercation saw Davina being thrown out of the house and moving in with her father. It was challenging for the sisters to be separated, but David's house was calm and settled. And by all accounts, Davina settled down and was much happier. Even though they both had new partners, the stability that Davina was experiencing with her dad and partner caused even more anger and resentment in Rekha. On the last night, David saw his daughters. They had been joking about how Davina looked in her new job uniform from Pizza Hut, and they were waiting for her GCSE results. Rekha's feelings of resentment were compounded when her partner, Jay, ended their relationship. She had lost 2 relationships and her job. She was not a natural parent, was insanely jealous of her ex-husband, and was struggling financially. Jay, her ex-partner, would state that her behavior had become oppressive when he tried to leave. On June 11, 2007, 3 crucial things happened. Firstly, Rekha spent the day bombarding Jay with texts asking him to change his mind about ending their relationship. Then, secondly, after receiving no reply, her final text stated he would never see her again. Finally, Rekha purchased a set of kitchen knives for £15 from her local supermarket. The following day, June 12, 2007, Rekha lured Davina away from her dad's by softening her up with the promise of a shopping trip for the 3 of them. They were told they could buy whatever they wanted, which was very much out of character for their mum, but something that obviously 2 teenagers were very pleased about. Rekha picked a shopping center that was 50 miles or 80 kilometers from their home. This would ensure that both girls would sleep at her house that evening due to how late they would return. Later, prosecutor James Farmer would state, "What better way of forming a bond to ensure they were in her house for the night and available to be killed to take them out and give them a sense of well-being." I don't know about you, but the words "being available to be killed" makes me feel so sad for the girls who had no way of knowing what would happen and were just living in the moment and enjoying normal teenager shopping trips with their mum. Rekha postponed any action that day because Davina sent her a beautiful message saying, quote, "Thanks. I really enjoyed myself. I love you with all my heart and always will." End quote. Unfortunately, this delay would not last long. At 2:30 a.m. on June 13, 2007, Rekha, who was then 41, entered Davina's bedroom and using 2 of the knives she purchased 2 days prior, she stabbed her 37 times. It was later determined that Davina fought back and was found in a kneeling position. She then entered Jasmine's room and proceeded to stab her a total of 29 times with the same 2 knives. Jasmine was found in bed and appeared not to have had time to fight back. Both girls' wounds were inflicted to the chest. After she had butchered both girls, Rekha changed out of her nightdress and took a short car journey from their house in the Crofters. She then returned to the house to shower and clean herself up before taking another drive. Shortly before, at 6:30 a.m., she rang NB, a special constable and friend. He did not answer the calls from Rekha, so she left 2 messages. Message 1, quote, "I've done something terrible. Please call me." End quote. Message 2, quote, "I stopped them with knives from the kitchen. This is terrible. At least the children are safe now. Nobody else can hurt them. I've been thinking about it for days. I just woke up and decided I was going to do it there and then." End quote. Still covered in her daughter's blood, she claimed to have written a note and attempted self-exit after the murders. Although a note was found, there was no evidence of such an attempt. This note read, "Sorry doesn't mean anything. Now I killed my 2 beautiful daughters. I didn't want them to get hurt like I did. So I just want to take a small but relevant diversion to look at the research on why parents kill their children. This is referred to as filicide and is sadly not an uncommon occurrence. A National Institute of Health-supported study that looked at homicide arrests over 32 years found that 15% were filicide in nature. 5 filicide motivations in groups have been identified. Altruistic group, kill for a real or imaginary suffering. Acutely psychotic group, have an irrational motive to kill. Unwanted child group, children are seen as a hindrance. Fatal maltreatment group, children die as an unintended consequence of neglect or abuse. And the final 5th motivation can be seen in the spousal revenge group. This is reserved for those parents who kill to get back at a partner or spouse. So, this case would fall under the last category of spousal revenge. Back to the case. Detective Sergeant Jennifer Johnston was the first officer to attend the scene and stated, "She, Rekha, was very calm. She was not upset, she was not crying, and she was very quiet." She further stated that the scene was all she could think about for a considerable amount of time. I'm guessing that scene will never leave any of those involved in this case, including the jury. When Rekha was arrested that day, she told police, "My kids will not be a burden to anyone anymore." The trial. Mr. Justice Bean presided over the trial of Rekha at Cambridge Crown Court in September 2009. The jury was told that the girls were killed in an attempt to deny their father David any happiness. Sadly, she achieved this and more. Prosecutor John Farmer QC spoke of the deterioration Rekha felt in her life in the months leading up to June 13, 2007. Her relationship with Jay floundered and she lost her job. Meanwhile, David's relationship was going from strength to strength. The resentment towards David's new partner was also clear. She was not happy about how things were developing with her daughters, not happy about her unemployment, and not happy that her ex-husband was getting on so well in his personal life. A storm was accumulating, and her mind turned to killing her daughters. David said that relations with his ex-wife had soured when he began dating Kay, and that she did not like Kay, and there was a lot of friction between them. The prosecution said in closing that Rekha's actions were a deliberate attempt to wreak havoc on David. The defense's case. Rekha, dressed in a purple jumper with straggly hair, pled not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Her lawyer, Richard Carey Hughes QC, argued that she was suffering from a severe abnormality of the mind when the murders occurred. But this was contradicted by a psychiatrist, who determined she did not have a mental disorder or illness, both at the time of her arrest and by the prosecutor's expert trial witness. The definition of a severe abnormality of the mind, using DSM-5, which is often referred to as the Psychiatry Bible, is, quote, a syndrome characterized by clinically significant disturbance in an individual's cognition, emotion regulation, or behavior. I need to emphasize here that I am not for 1 minute suggesting that anyone with these disorders is a danger to others. I just wanted to show what Rekha's lawyer had argued she had at the time she committed the murders. In mitigation, Rekha's defense stated, "These will be long years for her. Times will be few indeed when she will not wish she had joined her daughters on that night. And we still do not have an answer to the mystery that lies at the heart of this act." I know everyone deserves effective counsel, but geez, lady, this is not about you. In victim impact statements read out in court, David, the girl's father, said the following: "To have them taken away from me in such a brutal way, and by the woman who was their mother and charged with their care, has had an incalculable effect. I suffer from strong feelings of guilt that I didn't see it coming, and helpless that I have not been able to do anything about it. I remain haunted by the horror of that night. She tore them from us all, and life can't be the same for those who remain." David himself could not attend the hearing himself. After more than 2 years with no sleep, losing his job and moving away from Cambridgeshire, I'd like to think I would be there to look the perpetrator in the face, but I totally understand the trauma he must have had and still has. The role of the school and social services. During the trial, it emerged that teachers at Davina's school, Impington Village College, met with Rekha regarding concerns about her daughter. And in 2004, 3 years before the murders, Rekha said to Davina, in front of a teacher, "I wish you were dead." As a result, school staff alerted social services, telling them that Rekha was volatile, excitable, erratic, and could become aggressive. This led to monitoring by social services, which was eventually stopped when they concluded that the living arrangements were sufficient for Davina and Jasmine. The report into these decisions was delayed until after sentencing to account for the court's findings. In September 2010, a Cambridge Serious Case Review concluded, quote, "The SCR identified Rekha as a parent who sometimes emotionally abused her children and who was occasionally unable to put their needs ahead of her own. However, there were no factors that could have led professionals to predict that she was one of those very few mothers who would kill her children." Report recommendations included: 1. There was a need to listen to children and take their views on board. 2. Recognizing that emotional abuse should not be downgraded to a soft concern, as it can be as damaging as other forms of abuse. And 3. There needs to be a focus on parental behavior on children, rather than the causes of that behavior. Okay, so do we all see a problem here? Surely, professionals do not need a report highlighting basic care principles. Let me know if you agree, because I'm sure it's not just me. On September 22, 2009, after a 2-week trial, a jury of 7 women and 5 men took a mere 35 minutes to convict Rekha of the murder of Davina and Jasmine. The defense's claim of diminished responsibility was rejected. Mr. Justice Bean sentenced Rekha Kumari Baker to life imprisonment with a minimum tariff of 33 years. As she had already spent 2 years and 92 days in prison, awaiting trial, she would serve a further 30 years and 273 days in prison. This means she will be 72 when first eligible to apply for release. Rekha remained expressionless throughout. At sentencing, Mr. Justice Bean described the murders as acts of unspeakable savagery. Most people find it inexplicable that a mother could kill her own children, and you have given no explanation for it. You were certainly upset at the breakdown of your relationship with Jay. I think this mild depression was probably combined with a wish to retaliate against David and destroy his happiness in his life. You knew quite well what you were doing, and you were not mentally ill. The crimes were, as the prosecution rightly put it, murder, full stop. He defended his reasons for not handing down a sentence of life without parole because he didn't think that the murders were premeditated enough. But surely buying knives, luring the girls on a shopping trip, the overkill, and demeanor after is indisputable evidence of premeditation. What do you think? Do you think she should be allowed the possibility of parole, even though she would be 72? Following her conviction, Rekha was incarcerated in Peterborough High Security Prison, which, as you can see, looks pretty upmarket. What do you think? Pool tables, comfortable cell rooms, beautiful grounds with gardening, polytunnels, and chickens. Davina and Jasmine were laid to rest in a joint service on the 27th July 2007 at Cambridge Crematorium. The ceremony started at 4 p.m., bringing together family, friends, and community members to remember the two sisters there. In true crime cases, the focus is usually on the perpetrator, so it's important that we look at Davina and Jasmine through the eyes of those that knew them best. The two girls were said to have very different personalities, but despite this, they, quote, got on together fantastically. Their dad said Davina was feisty, outgoing, and an extrovert. Jasmine was quiet and intellectual and sometimes lived in her sister's shadow. For those of a certain age, Davina's MySpace page stated that her hero was Gandhi. Her likes included Julia Roberts films and Big Brother. Her friend, we'll call her S, added, Davina was very outgoing. She always wanted to be on the go. She went to an X Factor audition and loved it. Less is known about Jasmine, but her dad described her as quiet and intellectual. If you can't see the middle image clearly, even though I have tried to clear it up, it shows Davina and Jasmine holding hands with the caption, "We'll never let go." Thank you for joining me and taking the time to remember Davina and Jasmine and the search for justice. What do you think about Rekha's premeditation, her counsel's justifications, the lack of remorse, and the 33-year sentence? Let me know below. Take care, stay safe, and look out for each other. Until next time, bye.